Update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for college? Original post. I, 51 male, have 2 children, Katie, female 17, and Mark, male 15. I am seeing a lovely lady, Alice, who has a child, Eliza, female 17. We met because our daughters are friends and have been seeing each other for about 18 months and have lived together for 6 months. Though we currently live together, our finances are pretty separate. Financially, I do pretty well, and I make more than she does, so I pay about 80% of the house bills. In addition, we both pay for our own individual expenses and for those of our children, clothes, cars, cell phones, spending money, etc. It had been going really well, and we were talking about marriage, which means combined finances. So we started looking at what a budget might look like, and it went pretty well, though we both had to compromise a bit on what we wanted. Then we got to college savings. I put a certain amount of money into Katie and Mark's college funds each month, and I assumed we would be doing the same for Eliza. It turns out that Eliza does not have a college savings account. There is no money set aside for her future education at all. I was stunned. I know Eliza is planning on going to college. Where to go is one of the favorite topics of conversation at the dinner table for both girls. Eliza is not gifted athletically or academically, so there is little chance of a scholarship. I asked Alice what her plan was, and she replied she didn't have one. I pointed out how expensive college was. She asked me how much I had saved for Katie and Mark, so I pulled up those accounts. She said that was plenty. We could just divide it in 3. I said absolutely not. I had started saving that money for each of the kids before they were even born, and it belonged to them. She said, what about treating the kids equally? I replied that equally meant giving each of them the same amount going forward, not taking money away from 2 of them to give to the other. She said, what about the retirement funds? I said no again, because of both the hit we would take on taxes and what it would do to our early retirement plans. I had worked hard to save to be able to retire early and travel. Alice said it was unfair to Eliza not to pay for her college when I'm paying for the other 2, and I agree. But you don't start planning on how to pay for college when the kid is 17. It's not Eliza's fault, but it's not mine either. Alice is now accusing me of not caring about Eliza, that I would find a way if it was my child. I told her that I did find a way for my kids. It was saving for their entire lives, not hoping that tens of thousands of dollars would magically appear. It went downhill from there. At this point, Alice and I are not speaking. We won't be getting married, and I seriously doubt we will be together much longer. I don't think I am wrong, and neither do the people that I talk to. However, I admit they are biased toward me. I am coming here to get an outside perspective. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Alice sounds like she's looking for a little bit of sugar daddy money pretty late in the game. It comes across pretty sketchy for her to show up and throw her kid in with yours and assume the bill would be footed. I would take this whole situation as a red flag at bare minimum. I didn't put it in the post because of the character limit, but Alice and I had talked about our expectations. We did say we wanted the kids treated equally by both of us. I get where you're coming from, but what I sincerely can't get is like, if she wanted her kid to have college money, why didn't she have any kind of plan? Outside of finding a man with a wallet whose heartstrings she could tug on. Not the a-hole. Getting married later in life means, in my opinion, 2 things: separate finances and a prenuptial. You have been willing to pay what you considered an equitable share, 80% of your joint household expenses. That's pretty generous if you ask me. You drew the line and weren't willing to pay college for Alice's child. That's perfectly reasonable. Alice's reaction is immature and over the top. We never got that far, but yes, I would ask for a prenup. I don't think it will be an issue now. It really wasn't generous. With the exception of groceries and a bit higher water bill, none of the joint expenses really went up. I actually saved a little money on those things when they moved in, since Alice did pay some. Not the a-hole. It is pretty entitled to think that just because you are married, you have to suddenly take on this huge financial burden out of nowhere. Why hasn't she been saving for her child's future? Has Eliza said anything about her college plans? Community college is always a great option and is much more affordable. And she could always start there and transfer to a better school if she does well. They both have a few colleges they are looking at, many of them the same. They are both planning to, at least today, it changes regularly, apply to the public and state school as their fallback. Other than that, there are a couple of out-of-state schools as well as at least one private school. We were supposed to do college visits this summer, but that didn't happen for various reasons. In all of these conversations, Alice never once mentioned that there wasn't money for Eliza to go where she wanted to. Now for the update 3 months later. Alice and Eliza moved out on the 1st. Our relationship is officially over, though it really ended when all of this first came to light. Alice and I were able to sit down together and develop a plan on how to move forward and how to tell the kids. Alice was not able to move out immediately. She needed to find a place she could afford in our same school district. Alice and Eliza finally had their long overdue conversation about the lack of college savings, and it did not go well at all. There was a lot of yelling and tears on both sides. I could hear the screaming from a different room. Eliza is barely speaking to her mother now. I spoke with Mark and Katie. They were both confused as to why Alice wouldn't tell Eliza that there weren't any savings, and I couldn't help them with that. Katie, my sweet little girl, asked if she could give some of her fund to Eliza, and I told her no. That money had been set aside for her, and she's the only one it is going to be used for. She wasn't happy with that answer, but didn't fight me on it. All of the kids wanted to know if Alice and I were breaking up, and we told them yes, that Alice and Eliza would be moving out. We emphasized that we were breaking up because we found we weren't compatible. It had nothing to do with them. The kids were upset, of course, though the girls were far more upset than Mark. They loved living in the same house together, and I told Eliza that she was still welcome to come over, just like she did before Alice and her moved in. Just because Alice and I weren't together didn't mean they didn't get to be friends. I did sit down and talk to Alice and Eliza about options for college. Some of what I learned was from the comments on my previous post, so thank you all. It turns out that there are actually experts on financial aid that you can go to for help. They will explain loan options and even help you apply for scholarships you might be eligible for. I paid for Alice and Eliza to talk to one. Eliza has amazed me through all of this. While she is furious with her mother, she is determined to still go to college and to accumulate as little debt as possible. She asked me to help her with her planning, and I agreed. I think I'm turning her into a spreadsheet junkie. She has also gotten an after-school job and is saving every penny she can. I think she's going to be okay. Alice is very, very short-sighted. Per OP, I think it is a bit of both. I didn't know her at the time, but it is my understanding that Alice really struggled after she left her husband, and he was a deadbeat. You know, the kind of guy that would quit a job rather than pay child support. In the last 5 years or so, she changed jobs and things got better. By the time I met her, I think things were okay. We didn't talk about finances in detail, just at a high level. I made more than her, so I paid most of the joint bills when she moved in with me. That right there had to save her a pretty good chunk of money. She would buy expensive things for herself and Eliza, but I spoil my kids sometimes too. I just assumed, yeah, I know the cliche, that she had her finances under control. But during that time, she didn't save anything for Eliza. OP was footing 80% of their shared bills and had indicated he was willing to help Eliza with college funds going forward. And Alice had finally, after years of working lower-wage jobs, gotten to a place professionally where she was making pretty decent money. If she and OP could build a small cushion for Eliza and not get married so as to not affect her FAFSA, it's entirely likely that Alice could have paid for Eliza's college costs at an in-state public university with her income, plus OP's financial help and a combination of grants and loans. This was made possible with the cost savings of living with OP and him covering 80% of their living costs. Instead, she made unreasonable demands, and now they're breaking up, which means she has to move out and pay for everything herself, rent, utilities, etc. To add to this, the moment he found out there was no savings for Eliza, his entire perception of Alice changed, and not in a good way. He immediately looked at her differently, and his opinion of her did a full 180. She showed her hand, and it wasn't a good one. Once he had that information, he was able to piece things together. Her doing absolutely nothing to save for her daughter, yet buying designer shoes, clothes, etc., and not discussing it with OP sooner, allowed him to see a different side of Alice, the real side. Her mask dropped, not in an abusive kind of way, but in a financially irresponsible way. And when she suggested the plan to steal money from OP's kids to pay for Eliza, oh boy, that was the nail in the coffin for Alice. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not helping my wife's best friend get back with my wife after she accused me of cheating? Yesterday, I came back home after work, and I witnessed my wife crying. She was crying so much, she couldn't even speak properly. After a lot of effort to calm her down, I asked her why she was crying so much and why she was behaving like this. I won't lie, at that moment, my wife was acting like she was possessed by some entity from the underworld. After she calmed down and I asked her again, she told me that I was cheating on her. That's why she was heartbroken and angry at me. My situation is so dumb and hilarious, and depressing all at the same time. And please excuse my pathetic English. I was confused because I didn't cheat on her. Heck, I don't even talk to the opposite gender unless it's necessary. My wife said her best friend told her that I was cheating on her. Her best friend said that I'm a cheater and she saw me at the mall and that an older woman hugged me and kissed me on the cheek. I showed her a photo from that day and asked her if that was the same woman, and she said yes. I was speechless, and when I showed the photo to my wife, she went silent as well. I told her friend that the woman in question is our aunt. My wife got angry and kicked her friend out, saying she doesn't want to talk to her anymore. After she left, my wife turned on me and I couldn't stop laughing. So my wife got even angrier and told me, half jokingly I think, that if she ever finds me talking to other women, she'll skin me alive. I tried my best to stop laughing and told her that I would agree to Madam's rule, but she must kiss me in return. After all this stupidity, my wife calmed down, but her best friend is calling and texting me, saying that I should help her get back in touch with my wife and that she didn't mean to hurt her. Maybe I was a bit mean, but I told her to deal with it. I am kind of happy that my wife and her stupid friend broke off, and I have my wife all to myself, but I still feel like I should help her. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. They accused you of doing something you didn't do, and only regretted it once you cleared the situation. Yeah, that's right. She accused me of something I didn't do. I didn't even have sex with anyone else other than my wife, and I would never do that. I promised her that I will only be hers, and I won't go back on my words because my words are gold. But I felt bad because my wife's best friend didn't know that the woman in question is our aunt, and she might have misunderstood and thought I'm a filthy cheating man and wanted to help my wife. So I also appreciate her for trying to help my wife. That's why I'm thinking so much about this situation. I think this is also awful, that his wife doesn't want him to speak with other women too. There is a big difference between cheating and having female platonic friends and relatives that may greet you with a hug at a mall when they see you. It sounds like OP and wife should go into short-term counseling to get OP's wife to be more reasonable. To OP's question, definitely don't think he should help his wife's friend get back with his wife. It was awful and ridiculous for the wife's friend to make assumptions based on a hug and kiss on the cheek. If OP was really cheating, it would have maybe been a kiss on the lips, perhaps without the hug hand-holding afterwards. Plus, the age gap should have been the clue too. I read almost all the comments, and maybe there's a bit of a difference in how I and others think here, but I just want to clarify that I am not in an abusive relationship. My wife said she'd skin me alive because she was angry. It doesn't mean she's some kind of psychopath. She said what she said because she obviously cares about me and wants me all to herself. Also, my wife is not forbidding me from talking to my co-workers, etc. If it's necessary, I will obviously talk to the opposite gender. She knows that, and so do I. But she was angry, so I'm not too troubled by her words. I myself wouldn't converse with the opposite gender unless it's a necessity or she needs help urgently, and my wife wouldn't either. And to those who are saying my wife has a history, well, she doesn't. I've known my wife for a long time. I've known her since childhood and I know everything about her. Last story. Am I the a-hole for demanding that my husband and I go on video, consenting to an opening relationship before allowing one? I've been debating about actually posting this for a while, but since I don't feel comfortable discussing this with family or friends, I thought I'd come here anonymously. I, 35 female, have been with my husband, 35 male, since we were 15 in high school and married him at 25 after our first child was born. We are each other's only partner for everything, and I thought we were good until my husband told me that we weren't. It all started when our first child, 10 female, was born, and the dynamics of our relationship went through a shift. I admit that it was a bit of a challenge, but I thought we were doing okay until I got pregnant a second time and we had our twin boys, 6 males. It was rough, and between child rearing, both working, taking care of the home, and struggling to save for a bigger place, I honestly started to wonder if we'd make it. We went to counseling, and once all the kids were in school, I felt like my husband and I were going to be okay. We moved into our house, got a handle on our student loans, got help with child care, received respective employment advances, and were able to make monthly date nights for each other, where we could just focus on us. It wasn't perfect, but I truly believed that we were good. Then one day, my husband approached me about wanting to bring more excitement into the relationship. At first, I thought he just wanted to spice things up, which I was down for, and we did. But then he started to drop little hints about wanting more, and asking me if I ever had any regrets about when we met. It took a while for me to be honest with both him and myself, but I finally admitted that there were certain things I wished we could have done differently, and he seized that moment to bring up opening up the marriage. I was shocked, confused, hurt, and the thought of cheating entered my mind. He assured me that it wasn't and sent me articles and videos about ethical non-monogamy, but I wasn't initially open to it. Unfortunately, my husband didn't stop and kept pestering me about it to the point where it would ruin our date nights. After a year, I relented just to get it over with, but insisted on some ground rules. One of them being that I wanted us both to sit down together and record ourselves consenting to allow the other to have a partner. When my husband asked why, I showed him a post about a woman who was in an open relationship with her husband, and one day while she was out with her boyfriend, a relative of the husband saw her, took pictures, and then confronted the wife in front of the entire family. They accused her of cheating, and her husband just let her take the fall. I don't ever want to be in that position. But my husband dismissed it, saying that what happened to her won't happen to us, and that no one else needs to be in our relationship, which I found laughably ironic. I told him, no video confirmation of consent, then no open relationship. My husband thinks I'm being paranoid, unreasonable, selfish, unfair, and unwilling to compromise. Am I the a-hole? I'm more concerned that you seem to not actually want an open relationship. It's not an open relationship if you have to coerce your partner into accepting it. How vile to actually think you have permission to sleep around when you emotionally beat your spouse into submission. Yeah, these open relationships never end well. Even discussing the possibility of a threesome or foursome with my last ex most likely caused the downfall of our relationship. She did not take too kindly to me even mentioning the idea, and I promised to never bring it up again to her, which I never did suggest anything like that again.